Hello and welcome to the first father and son Formula One podcast of 2025. We're actually recording this exactly a week before the season opens in Australia.
Yeah.
Actually, at this point, not exactly a week. I think we'd just have done qualifying and be waiting for the race at this point in a week's time. I do apologise for the sound quality, by the way. I've got a horrible cold. I'm the father in the title. I'm Graham Miller, and here is my son Toby.
Hello.
So we're recording this so that we can go over pre-season testing, the F175 launch, and unlike last year, all the enormous changes that have happened to the teams, and roughly, what we're looking forward to in the next season, which, as everybody says, and it's not just advertising hyperbole this time, it does look to be one of the best seasons we've seen in a very long time.
Yes, it does. Although, last year everybody was saying it's going to be rubbish, and then it was excellent. So who knows?
Yeah. I think it's got a lot of potential, let's put it that way.
Yeah, it could be awesomely good fun.
We went to the F1 exhibition as well in London in the off-season.
Oh, yeah. When was that? Was that December or January?
I think we went in January in the end.
Yeah. That was very good.
I was pleasantly surprised. I kind of thought... I think there have been too many newspaper stories about really kind of naff, like Christmas things and Lego things, and I was a bit...
That Willy Wonka thing.
Have I just wasted my money?
Yeah. But the big thing for me was, first room you go into, there's, 3 cars?
Yeah.
From, I think, the 70s. Was it 60s, 70s and 90s? Or was it 70s, 80s and 90s?
Was I imagining it, or was there a shark-nosed Ferrari there?
What's a shark-nosed Ferrari?
It's like one of the 1950s one with the pointy nose.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Or was it a photo? There were so many. There were
so
cars
many photos. There. I think there was a photo. Having a look on Google, I don't think that thing was there.
Yeah, there were loads of cars. There was technical stuff.
It was pitched, somebody as people who like it slightly less than we do, but we didn't feel like it was a sort of surface level thing.
Oh no, there were cutaways showing how all the suspension works, the engines.
Yeah.
Stuff going all the way back to even before 1950, the complete history of the whole sport and where it started and where it's going next. And it was a really good, in-depth exhibition.
And we got to see Grosjean's burnt remains of his car.
Yeah, that's a bit terrifying, really, isn't it?
But also pretty insane because the teams could have made models of their cars, and they could have spent ages shining and making the old cars look presentable. But that was a recent car, and it's also a kind of one of one.
Yeah.
It is the actual exact vehicle that Grosjean nearly died in.
Yeah.
Which is, again, terrifying and a little bit sort of harrowing, but also awesome to actually see it.
And they had a wall of helmets, and there were a couple of 100 helmets there.
Yeah.
Including 6 Ayrton Senna race helmets, which...
Of course.
On their own, it must be worth...
Oh, you're probably 6 figures at least for a race-worn Senna helmet.
Yeah.
Race-worn Senna helmet, Hamilton got gifted one for beating Senna's pole record, and he was in shock. So...
you consider what Hamilton's spending power must be like.
Well, has he got... what are those? The Cobras, Shelby Cobras.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure he's had one of those, and those are literally millions.
Yeah, actually an original 1960s one.
Yeah.
Because the thing with the Shelby Cobra is he made... No, it's the AC Cobra, that's it. Shelby is the name of the guy who made it. But, yeah, he just bought AC Cobras from a small company in Britain and put a massive American V8 in them.
Yeah.
But there's very, very few of them, and they're a classic for kind of kit cars.
Yeah.
Obviously, anything in the 60s you can pretty much remake now in your shed.
Yeah,
But yeah, he had an original one of those at one point.
which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. How much of the F175 launch did you end up seeing?
I did actually watch the whole thing live.
Oh man, I just couldn't cope. It was all a bit...
Because it turns out my kind of complete special interest obsession with F1 is able to override the cringe that is these sort of kind of weirdly corporate, like, award show event things. It's kind of like the Oscars or the Grammys or something like that.
It was kind of like watching, I don't know, like The Office with, here's our best paper suppliers of 2025 awards, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was interesting.
There was an awful lot of very bored-looking drivers going, why are we doing this?
Yeah, that was the best bit. I mean, Verstappen very clearly didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
Hamilton and Leclerc obviously sharing a table because they're teammates. Someone took a photo of them playing chess on Leclerc's phone. Like they were both looking at his phone. It had the chess.com on it, flat on the table, and they were clearly,
Playing chess.
during the ceremony, which is quite funny.
I mean, to be honest, to come back to Max Verstappen,
Yeah.
it's become more and more clear, and I've got a lot of respect for him. He's kind of like Kimi Räikkönen in a way.
Yeah.
He wants to race fast cars.
Yes.
That is really what Max wants to do with his life.
You're right, actually. I hadn't really thought of it like that.
He's not really interested. I mean, like, Lewis Hamilton, for example, has got interests in fashion. He buys other sports teams.
I think he's done a bit of music and stuff as well.
He does music. He's very much a social activist.
Yeah.
He actually said about his switch to Ferrari. He said, basically, I could have retired by now.
Yeah.
But I have social activism like Black Lives Matter, promoting diversity, promoting women.
He's got the Hamilton Foundation, I think, or
Yeah,
commission.
the 44 Foundation.
He's got a few of them, more than one.
And he wants that to work. And he said, the biggest voice I've got is when I'm in the cockpit.
Yeah.
Because people are still talking about me while I'm racing. And that's kind of his motivation for keeping going. Whereas Max wants to drive fast. He doesn't really care about stewards or politics or launch events or
Yeah.
anything really apart from racing.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah, I kind of dropped in and out, and it's kind of weird. I think every team had like 7 or 8 minutes to...
yeah, some of them, each presentation, I liked that they gave each team their own chance to actually direct it. Because obviously, normally, you'd have a sort of a month-long, sort of middle of January to the middle of February period. Yeah, each team usually does their own livery reveal, because it's not always the same car because of aerodynamic details. They don't want to give away what they're doing. But,
Yeah.
and it would be a whole presentation, and they'd have their own sort of vibe and stuff.
Yeah.
Usually not terribly different because, they're sort of quite corporate. They're massive companies with many shareholders and stuff.
Yeah.
But, Aston Martin got to do the whole James Bond thing, which was quite cool.
Yeah.
I don't remember too many of them, except that Red Bull's was very typically Red Bull. It was sort of, that particular kind of street culture that they're very big in.
Yeah.
And they do lots of other extreme sports stuff, not just Formula One.
Yeah,
like
and
dirt
X Games
biking.
and...
Yeah, they do all sorts.
I mean, I thought overall the idea, the concept of having 10 now, soon to be 11 teams, all there at once, all doing their car reveals, all walking their drivers out and going, hey, look, we're driving this year.
Yeah.
I can really see the value in that. And I think they probably will do it next year as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think the only downside is that it was all at once. Because, as I was saying, before it was a month-long period, and every few days you'd get a new car to look at, and you get to really sort of digest it and think,
Yeah.
I wonder how good they're going to be. But this time it was like, this is what the AlphaTauri looks like. Okay, here's what the Alpine looks like. Here's what the McLaren looks like. It's like one after the other.
Yeah.
So it's a bit less... I think before the sort of launch season kind of built the tension up a bit for testing.
Yeah, and I've been really kind of getting fed up with basically waiting for this season to start because, like, for example, ever since, well, the last 12 months, the whole news cycle has been Lewis is going to Ferrari.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I mean, I haven't seen it yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a news story of this is the first time Lewis Hamilton used the toilet at Maranello. You know, it really was getting to that kind of...
Yeah, I mean, I did see on the F1 section of the BBC Sport,
Yeah.
it was like the top 4 stories that appear on the app. The top, like 3 of them were about Hamilton at Ferrari.
Yeah.
And then one other was like someone else. I think it's calmed down a bit now.
Yeah, we've got Cadillac got approval, Red Bull, Eccleston,
yeah,
Russell, yeah, it has all.
It's a bit less, but I mean, oh, there we go. If I click through onto Formula One on the BBC News app, there's this sort of big Cadillac at the top, 4 stories. First story at the top, Hamilton on arriving in red at Melbourne.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, I must
especially
admit,
during testing, because obviously they interview all the drivers afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing I did love was Hamilton's mastery of Instagram.
Oh, yeah, that was so cool.
And he's now got the most liked Instagram post by any F1 driver ever.
Yeah. Is it that first photo of him at Maranello?
I thought that was a little bit tactless.
Really?
Well, it was kind of, to me, it just reminded me of The Godfather. With the sharp suit and the overcoat off the arms and on a flash car outside his home.
Is there any scene that actually looks like that from The Godfather, though? Not that I've seen it.
I think it's more just... For me, it had a very dodgy mafia movie vibe because of the suit and the overcoat without his arms through it.
Well, I'm looking at the pictures of The Godfather and everybody's wearing bow ties, weirdly.
Oh, okay.
And Hamilton's got a straight tie. I think it's more just that Hamilton is Hamilton and he wants to look pretty much as fashionable as is humanly possible at any given moment.
Yeah, what I found really interesting
Yeah.
is that leading up to it, and he's been heavily criticised for this, Hamilton was doing an awful lot of high fashion of like big baggy trousers and weird outfits and everything else like that.
Mm.
And then as soon as he arrives at Ferrari, it's super sharp suits.
Yeah.
It's kind of a lot more of a grown-up, serious look, to be honest.
Maybe it's a slightly... I don't know. I don't want to say whitewashed, because it's not quite the right word, but kind of Ferrari saying, come on, Lewis, this is a sophisticated team. We're going to be, you know, it's like an old money team, isn't it?
You see, I don't actually think they'd be able to dictate to him to that extent.
I mean, yeah, that is also true.
I think the whole deal is fascinating because it's a kind of... I feel like I've said this before.
Mm-hmm.
The whole deal with Ferrari and Hamilton feels more like a collaboration because they've invested in the 44 Foundation. They've invested in his non-alcoholic tequila brand.
Yeah.
He's almost sponsoring the team with his wealth
and his
presence.
Yeah. I mean, their stock went up a huge amount when they announced the signing.
Yeah. So there is a huge kind of... It's not like they bought a driver and they own him.
No. Or even that he's employed by them, which he is. It is much more like a...
collaboration. I don't think they'd be telling him what to do.
No, yeah.
Actually, before we get on... Actually, I think I've got the F1 page up here with the list of drivers.
Yes.
Shall we just go through them really quickly in terms of how they were? And because we watched the testing, I watched quite a lot of it.
I was at work for most of it.
Oh.
Yes.
You know what was really interesting about the testing?
Anything was interesting about the testing?
Did you say anything?
Was anything? I mean, yeah, I know it is. It's just like in the moment.
It's really quite dull because everybody's running different test programs.
Yeah.
Some of the commentators and engineers can kind of tease out a few facts based on how low the car's riding, how many laps it's done, to give hints at the fuel level.
Yeah.
But I might be wrong on this. Day one, I think, they had an on-track power cut.
Yes.
And they had to red flag the session. Now, this happened around about sunset, so there was still dusk. There was still some light in the sky.
Yeah.
But none of the backup generators kicked in.
Yeah.
And it suddenly occurred to me, that's actually a massive risk.
Oh, yeah.
Because we've got Vegas, we've got Bahrain, we've got Singapore.
I want to say Qatar.
Yeah.
I think that's it for night races.
But what happens if you've got two cars side by side at 300 kilometres an hour?
And all the lights go off immediately.
And, okay, maybe... Actually, I know what generators are like. Even if they kicked in 10, 15 seconds later, that's an awful lot of track those cars would cover before they could see what the hell was going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, even if both of them thought, oh, what's going on, I'll just back off.
It'd still be in the same part of track.
Yeah, and they can't see, so if one of them just decides to turn... I mean, it wouldn't be either of their fault at all, but if it's pitch black, especially if their eyes don't adjust, especially if they're wearing, like, a visor...
Yeah.
Then it's just... A crash is almost guaranteed to happen.
Or they might even not judge the braking point and go straight ahead at a corner, or...
Well, I think if the lights went straight out, they'd probably lift immediately. And they could actually... If they're one behind the other and one of them lifts or brakes, then it's, also bad.
But then, and again, I actually cannot believe I'm saying this out loud, a shuttle bus drove onto a runoff area on a live track.
Yeah.
I mean, after the Jules Bianchi death, that was caused by basically a foreign vehicle on the track.
It was a crane, I think, wasn't it?
That was telelifter crane type thing.
Yeah.
And, the changes they made then. But a shuttle bus just popped onto a runoff area.
But, where was it trying to go, even?
I don't know.
What? How do you end up... Was it trying to just loop around the track?
I guess it must have been.
But how can there be an opening for it to go through that's big enough for a bus?
Well,
and with
so many questions.
And with no marshal saying, what the hell are you doing? That's a live track.
Yeah. Apparently somebody said, can't remember what corner it was, they said, oh, it's a good job Logan Sargent isn't there because he'd have hit that. So I think it was somewhere where Sargent had gone massively wide before.
Yeah, I think Sargent had a spin at that corner and said if he had done that here, he would have crashed into it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, unbelievable that it was allowed to happen.
And then the third thing that happened was, there's probably a proper name for it. There's a little raised platform box thing over the start-finish line that the celebrity of the day leans out of with the checkered flag.
Well, also, I think that's where Charlie Whiting, when he was still doing it, stood and switched the lights off.
Yeah.
There is probably a name for it.
A sheet of glass fell out of that box.
Yeah, and shattered on the straight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, given they had 8 hours a day for 3 days...
Yeah.
Okay, that's a lot of use for the track, but...
Yeah.
That's 3 incidents at one track. Or, okay, maybe the pane of glass falling out. That's kind of... We're used to that. Bits have fallen off cars, plastic bags have blown across the track, dogs have got onto the track.
Oh, dogs, lizards. There was a deer on track once.
Yeah.
Birds. Big...
debris on the track.
Well, yeah, fine.
We'll give them a pass on that one because that happens in Formula One. It's a thing.
But the power cut, I think it must have also... Did it not switch off everybody's telemetry and stuff as well?
Oh, the pit garages all went dark.
So you can't radio to the drivers.
No.
You can't actually communicate to the drivers at all. You can't even flash the red flags.
No.
So if that's in a race, what condition is the track in? Because you can say, oh, it red flag. But the drivers can't know that. It ends up being a really weird situation.
I think it's red flagged.
Yeah.
Back to the last point where somebody crossed the line and they knew who was where.
Yeah.
But if anybody was speeding, they wouldn't get penalised for breaking red flag conditions.
Yeah. Although you could argue it's obviously dangerous, so if you're driving at full speed in the pitch black, you probably should get a penalty anyway, because why?
Well, unless your name is Kimi Räikkönen.
Well, yeah.
You probably got the memory for it. There's a video of why.
Is it? I'm going to say Spa, and I'm going to say 2004 off the top of my head.
This was quite early, but it's the one where it just comes out of a corner and there's just white smoke right across the track.
I'm going to look it up and see if I was right.
And he just doesn't lift.
Yeah, he's just full speed. Oh, 2002.
Oh, okay.
So that was his second year in F1.
Yeah.
Complete nut job.
But yeah, I said at the time, I think I was chatting to you on WhatsApp, I said, I'm expecting to see Bahrain circuit manager advert come up on LinkedIn now.
I could probably do it better than him.
Well, I mean, one of those is a bit off, but three in 3 days.
I think the power cut and the bus are, as you said, they're kind of the really egregious ones. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was... So, I'm actually not going to go... I'm actually not going to go through them in the order on the F1 site. I'm going to kind of start top down on them.
So I think they're alphabetically team name, if I had to guess. Yeah, because Williams are last.
So we had Max Verstappen and Lawson, the current Red Bull lineup.
Yeah.
I've seen, and this will come back to the point.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of chatter about Valtteri Bottas.
Yes.
Because Bottas has been hired as the reserve driver for Mercedes, and he's really happy about that.
Yeah.
But he talked about his previous stint at Mercedes next to Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
Did you see that interview or not?
I don't think so, actually.
It was really interesting because no fault of the team or anybody in the team. He said it was appalling for his mental health. Because he's a racing driver.
Yeah.
He's one of the 20 best drivers in the world, easily. He turned up to the track every Thursday thinking, I could be a world champion. I want to go out there, I want to win races.
Yeah.
And by Sunday evening, he was like, Lewis beat me again.
Yeah.
I am not good enough.
Yeah.
And he said on the rare occasions that either Lewis was having an off day, or the car setup favoured Valtteri, or the track favoured Valtteri, or the temperature, or whatever, he would always be going round just waiting for I think it was James Vowles at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Waiting
Valtteri
for the radio message to come over and say, Valtteri, it's James.
Yeah.
When he actually wouldn't then be able to complete the job.
Yeah.
And I think combined with the existing weight limits, because he's quite a big lad, I think that really was quite bruising for him.
I think, he has spoken about how he more or less developed an eating disorder at a certain point when I think they used to have a very low weight limit.
Yeah.
So, if the weight limit's lower, then they want the drivers to be skinnier so they can keep the car as light as possible.
Well, also what they do is they add lead plates to the car, which go under the driver, so it brings the centre of gravity down if you've got a light driver.
Yeah.
And if you've got a heavier driver, you put less lead plates in the floor, which then raises the centre of gravity.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was thinking about that in terms of Red Bull, because we've always said Max Verstappen eats teammates.
Yeah.
But that's how Valtteri felt in Mercedes, who are quite an equitable team. Okay, they've got a number one driver.
Yeah.
But they kind of let them fight.
Yeah.
Then you go into a team where you've got Max, Christian Horner, Helmut Marko, and Jos Verstappen, who are all there for one reason, and that's to make Max Verstappen win championships.
Yeah.
And whoever's his teammate, kind of, I won't exactly say there to make up numbers, because they need 2 drivers per team.
Well, but, yeah. I mean they kept Perez for long enough that you think they don't really need a second driver.
Yeah, and, Perez was a really good driver, and he was just... I'm now hearing what Valtteri said. I can kind of see what happened to Checo. He was just demoralised.
Yeah.
No matter what he did, he wasn't as fast as Max, which in a lot of ways is a credit to Max. He's a very, very good, fast driver.
Yeah.
But I think having that team culture along with a very fast teammate is probably what means that Red Bull aren't keeping teammates for very long.
Yeah. I mean, which of Verstappen's teammates have gone away and come back more successful?
Yeah.
I suppose actually both Gasly and Albon are doing quite well, but they both actually left the entire Red Bull family after being teammates with Verstappen.
Yeah. And in pre-testing as well, I thought Red Bull looked a bit shaky. There were quite a lot of times when the shutters, they put screens over in front of the pit garages when they're changing the floors.
Yeah.
Because the floor is the major aerodynamic component and you don't normally get to see it.
Yeah, definitely.
But if you actually look up the list of how much running time they had, Red Bull were really struggling.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they lost Newey.
Yeah.
So...
And not just Newey, there's been quite a large number of technical staff who've abandoned Red Bull and gone to other teams.
Yeah. So it's starting to crumble a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if... I'm not going to say they're going to be completely awful next year, but I think it might be a bit like a Mercedes thing once they lost Niki Lauda.
Yeah.
That they started... Once they lost Lauda and lost in Abu Dhabi 2021...
Yeah.
That's when they started to backslide a little bit, and I think we might see that happen to Red Bull.
Don't forget as well, there was a huge reg change it just didn't adapt to.
Yeah, but there'll be a big reg change next year.
Exactly.
And without Newey, I think it'll probably end up being... This year I think it'll be McLaren and Ferrari will be fighting for the championship. And I think Red Bull and Mercedes will probably be fighting for P3, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the commentators I trust most have said this is a continuation of last year. Most teams are bringing an evolution of last year's car, so we can expect the top 4 to be the top 4.
Yeah.
And the order might be different. I've seen reports that McLaren were sandbagging, apparently.
Yeah, I'm not sure if sandbagging is a real thing.
No.
Because I feel like surely you want the data.
I mean, I think the truth is they don't sandbag. I don't think it's enough of an advantage given limited testing time they've got in the current regs.
Yeah.
To play mind games with their opponents. I think it's much more that they...
Yeah, what advantage do they get if everybody else doesn't think that they're as fast as they are?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, you've got to drive your own race.
Yeah, if McLaren are sandbagging, are Ferrari going to say, oh, okay, we don't need to develop as much as we thought, let's just give up?
Yeah, everybody's pushing as hard as they can.
Yeah. It doesn't really make much sense.
I mean, McLaren were kind of unexceptional in testing because they came about where we thought they would come.
Yeah,
they had 2 drivers who we've seen before. They're not technically rookies.
Well, they're not rookies at all. I mean, they're one of 2 teams to keep their same lineup.
Yeah.
Them and Aston, and that's it, which is, again,
quite unheard of.
Insanity, really.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of the grid, and testing was so dull that they actually had a long discussion about whether or not we can call them rookies. Because people like Behrman has competed for 2 teams already.
It's Behrman and Lawson. Because Lawson's had 11 races.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are saying...
Rick as well.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying, if you've driven 11 whole races, you can't really be a rookie.
They kept saying things like whole season rookie, and I think we should go by the FP1.
What, so if you've had FP1, you're not a rookie?
No, if you've done 1 or 2 races, you can go into FP1 as a rookie. So actually, they pointed out again in the really dull commentary, if they wanted to be cheeky.
Yeah.
For example, Mercedes could, in Australia, say, oh, Kimi Antonelli's our rookie that we're putting into the FP1 testing slot.
That is quite funny, except... Yeah, I think the FIA would say, no, you have to...
It's probably in the regs that have completed less than 2 races and is not signed for a team.
I think the point is they have to... One of their full-time drivers has to surrender their car.
Yeah.
So they can't say, oh, Antonelli, he surrendered it to this Italian wunderkind called Kimi Antonelli.
So, yeah. McLaren were McLaren, really. They turned up where we thought they'd turn up on the timing sheets.
Yeah.
As you said, they had the same drivers doing the same things, so...
Yeah.
Ferrari got everybody super excited because Hamilton was in red. Yay!
Wow, I can't believe it.
No, I'm just going to go and look. Toby and I were actually WhatsApping each other. And I started a thread on WhatsApp, which I now can't find, of things we talked about, because there was a whole interview with Frederick Vasseur.
Yeah.
Where he kind of highlighted, because Christian Horner, king of the mind games, has said that they'll be taking points off each other at Ferrari. That Lewis and Charles will, be fighting each other.
Yeah.
But Charles Leclerc is an incredibly impressive driver.
Yeah.
Probably needs that X factor, that final 2 or 3% to be world champion.
I almost feel like he's got it, to be honest. I think it's one of those things where there are so many drivers who, if they weren't competing against, you could say Schumacher or Vettel or Hamilton or whoever, they could be a champion. And I think Leclerc is part of that sort of group.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So there's 2 strands to Frederick Vasseur's strategy.
Yeah.
Either Hamilton will be, I know how to do this, I know how to motivate a team, I know the final little bits you need to have a winning car, but he's over the hill and past it, in which case Charles Leclerc will be world champion.
Yeah.
Or Hamilton will get his 8th title. It's a kind of win-win, really.
Yeah.
Now, I found this unbelievably geeky website called Racing Statistics F1.
Yeah.
And they did something really clever. They took the whole database from Silverstone 1950 up to the end of 2024. All the races. And they recoded them using the current scoring schedule. 25 for first, down to 1 for 10th.
Yeah.
We didn't always record fastest laps.
Yeah.
So they ignored that altogether.
Yeah.
And that then meant that you could actually look at all the drivers from history against each other. The first article they did was overall points scored, which, in my mind, doesn't really count because, like, Lewis, I think Vettel, I think definitely Alonso have all done, like, over 300 races.
Yeah. Alonso's on 400 now, isn't he?
Yeah, Alonso's on 400. And back in the 60s, and even the 70s, that would take you 30 or 40 seasons to do.
Yeah.
But then what you can do is you can get all the race starts, and I did this before they did it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can then divide it out, and you can work out how many points each driver has scored when they turned up to a race weekend.
Yeah.
Now, I did this myself before they did it, and that included the kind of oddities who turned up for 3 races and won 2 of them. This kind of weird stuff that happened in the 50s.
Well, back in the 50s, the Indy 500 was officially a Formula One race.
Yeah, for some of them it's...
So most of them are those.
But I picked out the kind of big names. So obviously Fangio's at the top. He got 16.85 per race.
Which is absolutely ridiculous.
But then, really interestingly, Hamilton got 14.48 or 14.5.
Yeah, I found it as well.
And Max is on 13.9.
Yeah.
So they're pretty much of a muchness. But what is coming back to the Ferrari story, you go down, you've got Fangio, Hamilton, Schumacher, Prost, Senna, Stewart, Vettel. They're all the big superstars.
Are they all... They're at least 3 or 4. Stewart and Senna are on 3. Everybody else is at least 4, which is ridiculous.
And then below that, you've got the one-offs like Hill, Rosberg, Hakkinen for 2, Piquet, Scheckter, Raikkonen.
Piquet got 3, I think.
Yeah. And guess who's sat between those 2 groups?
Well, I can literally see ahead of me.
You can see. But between those 2 groups is Leclerc.
Yes.
With 9.09 per race.
He scored
1, basically.
1 point per race fewer than Vettel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
who's
and
the
of
next?
The current drivers on the grid, it goes Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc.
Which is actually a pretty fair ranking.
And he's a long way ahead of Alonso.
I'm looking actually. The next highest driver who never got a championship, I think, is Barrichello.
Yeah.
And then below him is Norris.
But Barrichello's down on 7.5.
But Norris is not far off him.
No.
I think, again, Norris, if he has another couple seasons like this one, I think he's going to climb the ladder.
Yeah.
So
that actually shows that Leclerc is... He's in a group of world champions.
Multiple world champions.
Yeah.
I mean, knocking on the heels of a 4-time champion is ludicrous.
Yeah.
Especially since they were at the same team for a fair bit as well. So it's not even like you can argue the cars were better.
No. No, Vettel's the same kind of era, so...
I mean, I remember he came in to Sauber having won F2 in his debut season. Absolutely wiped the floor with Ericsson. Ericsson, who, by the way, went off to win the Indy 500 a few years later, so not even that bad. And I think at that point everyone was like, he's the one to watch now. He's going to be the next big thing. And they were not actually wrong, really.
No, he is, and he's well embedded in the team, so he's well in there. So, Mercedes next.
Yeah.
So Russell, see, I don't like the Mercedes strategy, because what's Russell thinking now? He's been in there for 3 seasons as teammate to Lewis.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he's not really got a wingman. He's got the next big thing sat next to him in Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah, he doesn't have a Bottas.
No. And I suppose, actually, for his first kind of proper session, Antonelli did well in the free practice. Didn't he win a session?
In what?
Not free practice, sorry, the pre-season testing.
I think he might have been top of one of the halves of a day. Let me see. 7th, 5th, 10th. Yeah.
Decent. And I mean, he's a complete unknown, really. We've got no real idea what his form will be like.
Yeah, because he honestly had a pretty rough Formula 2 season. He only came 7th.
Yeah.
He wasn't ever really troubling the championship.
I mean, you have to assume they know what they're doing.
Well, you don't have to, but...
Well, I heard an interview with Nico Rosberg about Hulkenberg. And it's really interesting because I see a lot of trolls on Facebook arguing the Hamilton-Verstappen thing backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
And the thing that Rosberg said that really struck me was, they always say about somebody, oh yeah, he's only there because he's in the fastest car. Or, oh, he's not that great a driver, the car's doing all the work.
Yeah.
And he said the thing is, team bosses only pick somebody who's fast. They only go for good drivers. And if they're a team boss like Toto or Christian Horner, they know they've got one of the fastest cars. So therefore they're going to pick the fastest driver they can find.
Yeah.
So if you get somebody like Hulkenberg who looks unlucky because he's never been in a championship winning car and failed to win, or, won, there's a reason for that, because he hasn't been fast enough, or he's not consistent enough, or the feedback to the engineers is, there's something there.
Well,
Otherwise he would have got into the fast car.
Well, you look at Alonso as well, who was like, when he was at McLaren and they were rubbish, he must have looked around and gone, where can I go? Because he burned his bridges at Ferrari because their 2014 car was awful. And then as soon as they left, they became really good again. Mercedes were never going to have him. McLaren, he was at McLaren. Red Bull were never going to have him.
But then...
So he had basically...
You looked at it the other way around. He got in a huge row with Hamilton.
Yeah.
And then shopped McLaren as well for the whole Ferrari Spygate thing. He then slagged off Ferrari for having a slow car. He then slagged off McLaren for having a slow car.
Yeah.
Yes, he's fast. He's probably one of the best natural talents on the grid. But
Yes.
is he somebody you really want as a team player?
Well, yeah.
I'm going to switch to things we're talking about, from Aston Martin.
Yeah.
Now, the rumour's been circulating probably most of last year that a Formula One driver, unnamed, has been experimenting in a world rally car. I don't know if you've heard this or not.
I haven't heard this.
Yeah, it's been like doing tests, not experimenting, he's been doing testing days and all that kind of stuff. And then they revealed, I think it was after Christmas actually, that driver was Lance Stroll.
Did they actually reveal it?
Well, I think somebody found out it was Lance Stroll.
Huh.
And now you were saying that Newey is going to be designing the 2026 car at Aston Martin.
Yes.
I think Lawrence Stroll is looking over the garage at Fred Vasseur. And I think he's thinking something very similar. He's thinking, Alonso may or may not be over the hill, we're not sure.
Yeah.
But if Adrian Newey delivers us a championship-winning car, and bearing in mind they've got a lot of other really good technical people, they've got a brand new factory, they've got a new wind tunnel.
Yes.
Newey's actually a partner, I think, in the team. They've got Alonso, who's a world champion, to help drive the competitive edge.
Yeah.
The only weak spot in that whole thing is Lance Stroll, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He is just actually not good enough, and I think...
I
don't know who they'd actually put in instead. Maybe Drugovich?
Drugovich is very good, I think. I think he might have won Formula 2 and then just got nowhere with it.
Well, he's got nowhere because he's been the Aston Martin reserve driver.
Yeah, he won 2022.
Alonso signed up to be a brand ambassador and part of the Aston Martin family.
Yeah, so...
And Lance Stroll is son of the owner. So there's no movement. But I think if Daddy puts Lance off to be a rally world champion,
yeah,
then he can have a team that wins.
Yeah, he could still take Aston Martin to the world championship.
Yeah. But I mean, that kind of makes a lot of sense to me, because I think, even with the most, he's my son, he's wonderful, I think there must be a realisation in the team that Lance just unfortunately doesn't have it. And it sounds a bit mean because, apart from when he beached it in the gravel, he's okay, he's competent.
What thing is, he's had races where he's actually really good. That's the weird thing, is that he's like... There was, Baku, years ago, 2017, I think he got on the podium. And that was a chaotic race with lots of crashing and lots of weird stuff. So the fact that he kept it together is quite impressive. And then again in Turkey a few years ago, he had a pole position and actually led for a bit. But they gave him terrible strategy.
World titles aren't born out of that.
I know. It's just interesting that he can't kind of string it together for more than one race every 3 years.
Unless you have a season like 2023, I think world titles are really born out of coming second and third and fourth.
Yeah.
Consistently winning a lot of races. Not that kind of flash in the pan. I think we've been talking for ages. Shall we rattle through the rest of them?
Yeah, I'm just looking at Drugovic. I think... Oh. There's another Aston Martin reserve driver.
Yeah.
Do you want to guess who it is? Because I don't think you will, actually.
Oh, I did look it up, but I cannot remember.
It's Stoffel Van Dorn.
Oh, yeah.
Who's actually Formula E champion a few years ago.
Yeah, he's a really good driver. So they've got the talent there.
I mean, honestly, Drugovic and Van Dorn, if Van Dorn had stayed in F1 and had gained all that experience over the years, because it was like 2018 he was in.
Yeah.
Along with Drugovic, that's a pretty solid lineup.
Yeah.
Could be like 2026 or 7. That could be what they end up going for.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, we've been going 3/4 of an hour.
Okay. Alpine.
Have you seen they've got new haircuts?
Yeah.
Gasly's haircut is impressively bad, unfortunately.
It just looks like a crew cut to me.
On his, which picture are you looking at?
I'm looking... Oh, yeah, that other one.
Yeah.
What's their current race suit? Are they racing in black at the moment?
I've got no idea. I think they're racing in pink.
Yeah.
So the majority pink one, the much shorter hair.
Alpine, actually, whether it was an offset due to the testing or not, they were flying.
Were they? I didn't really see much about them specifically.
They were really fast. Whether it's like a weird testing thing, which I think it might be.
Oh yeah, 6th in the day 1. 8th and 9th in day 2.
Yeah.
5th in day 3.
Yeah.
Well, they were awful at the beginning of last season, weren't they? I think they must have found something.
Yeah. The other thing to bear in mind about the pre-season testing is none of it got anywhere close to last year's pre-season testing times.
Were they not that close?
No.
Because I thought they were only a few tenths off pole position from last year.
Nobody was doing stripped out soft tyres quali runs, I don't think.
They weren't doing glory runs.
No. They were still quite a bit off last year's times. But yeah, Alpine looked incredibly strong.
Yeah. Much better than last year, which is cool.
Jack Doohan's under pressure, by the way.
I know, already.
There's rumours he's got a 6 or 7 race contract and Colapinto's waiting.
I think Alpine have had one of Colapinto's sponsor as a sponsor of their team.
Ah.
So it is one of those, like, people put the dots together and went, Doohan's days are numbered.
Well, they also scooped up Colapinto and nobody else wanted him, so...
Yeah.
I don't think his days are numbered. I think they're going to have a performance review after 6 races.
Yeah.
I think that's fair, much fairer to say.
It is. It's one of those things where it's like, feels a bit unfair for Doohan, especially now, because his arrival at the team has been completely overshadowed by Colapinto.
Yeah, although Colapinto's a very exciting talent. I mean, he did so well last year.
Yeah, I mean, he came in and he was on a level with Albon straight away.
Yeah.
And again, it kind of shows that Formula 2 is not necessarily that representative.
It's not a good indicator.
Because Behrman wasn't competing for the title, but then he did really well in his debut. So maybe Antonelli will actually be as good as they think he is.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I say, they wouldn't commit that much to him if he wasn't.
Yeah. But I kind of hope that Doohan can actually prove his worth and stay there.
He's the son of a motorcycle world champion, so...
Yeah. But
Oh,
also, we've got Cadillac next year, so maybe we'll end up seeing Colapinto in there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of rumours about Cadillac, like Danny Ricciardo, Colapinto, Perez. There's quite a lot of spare drivers about already, even without looking at your Paul Arons and people like that.
Yeah. Okay, so that was Alpine. Who next?
Racing Bulls.
They actually are officially called Racing Bulls.
I didn't see much of them in testing.
No, I don't remember much of what.
End of last year, Helmut Marko said something not very cryptic. He said about Yuki Tsunoda, Racing Bulls is a feeder team for Red Bull. You've got to ask yourself why somebody's been in a feeder team for 5 years without getting fed up to the main team.
Well, I like that Helmut Marko says that as if he's not the one who decides.
Well, quite.
He could have given Tsunoda a chance at any point.
Yeah, and again in the pre-season testing commentary when they ran out of things to say, Tsunoda's signed up with a new manager.
Ah.
So he's obviously fed up, and we know he's fed up.
Yeah, because if Lawson's rubbish and they don't pick Tsunoda, then something's definitely wrong.
Yeah. Quite whether they... I don't know, it's weird whether they've got a personality problem with Max or with, like I say, the whole people like Christian or Helmut or Jos or...
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think his time as a Racing Bulls driver, I think this will be his final season. It's quite weird. The whole Red Bull Academy environment is so volatile, and he's just always been there.
Yeah.
Now I've got it up.
Yeah.
40% of the grid this year are Racing Bull Academy drivers.
Or X.
Yeah.
So...
You've got 2 Red Bull, 2 Racing Bulls, that's easy.
Yeah.
Sainz?
That's
5.
Gasly.
6.
Albon.
7.
I feel like there might be someone else who was in it. Maybe. Let me check.
Anyway, I mean, I didn't really see much of the Racing Bulls. I think they've got the favourite livery of everybody out there.
I know Ocon's been a long time Mercedes junior.
Oh, okay.
Since, like, his days in F3. I feel like maybe one of the McLarens might have been.
Yeah.
Still 7 out of 20 drivers.
I think it might be 8, but yeah. Or was it Williams? Williams were actually blindingly fast as well in the pre-season testing.
I did see a lot of hype around Williams, yeah.
Compared to where they ended the year, to be blunt.
And where they have been. Because do you remember a few years ago they forgot to arrive, or they didn't have the half of their cars at testing?
Yeah.
One year. And everyone was like, that's like a kind of absolute low.
Well, last year, they actually withdrew a car because they ran out of parts.
Yeah, that too. They have had that kind of those issues of like supply chain and stuff.
Yeah. Well, apparently, according to James Vales, when he took over, they were running the whole supply chain on Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Which we're geeky, we love spreadsheets, but you can't run a tens of billions or hundreds of billions of pounds organisation.
No.
And track all. I mean, I have no idea how many parts go into a car. Plus all the kind of spare parts and the regulations and whether it's been tested, and it's not an Excel spreadsheet job.
Well, no, it's just not. I mean, spreadsheets are good for certain things. At that point, you need probably a full-on coded, probably a bespoke software, to be honest.
Asset management system, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, you must, there must be a company who can make you a software like that, and I imagine have done for the other teams.
IT or something, yeah.
Yeah, given again, before the budget cap, teams like Mercedes and Ferraris were bringing $500-600 million a year.
Yeah.
So with that much money floating around, one Excel document is kind of comical.
Yeah, it really is.
Anyway, it's also a good lineup at Williams.
What's that?
It's also a good lineup at Williams.
That is probably one of the strongest lineups on the grid.
I mean, a race winner. And Albon, who's...
Well, like I said last year, James Vowles sat down with Albon and said, "You are too good for this team."
Yeah.
That's what I was saying about the fastest drivers getting the fastest cars. He is better than the team.
Yes. But also...
I recognise that.
He drove in a faster car, but in a Red Bull environment.
Yeah.
And so he was then like, well, yeah, but I like this team more. And I get the feeling he'd rather, finish, 15th in a championship for the next 10 years than struggle to finish 5th in a championship in a team that just stresses him out and leads to a breakdown.
Yeah, again, that comes back to the mental health chat that
Bottas had.
Yeah, and about what it's actually like. In like a top level team, especially one where it's dominated by another driver.
Yeah, so I think maybe for James Vowles to say that must have been... Well, it's actually, first of all, it's the biggest vote of confidence you can give a driver, isn't it?
Yeah. But also, it's the best management decision I've heard in ages.
Well, yeah.
So we've only got 4 drivers left. I didn't see much from Bortoletto, to be honest, and maybe I was watching the wrong sessions.
Well, I think Sauber were also just a bit invisible.
Yeah, they actually struggled to score points last year, so...
Yeah. I am still glad that Zhou got those points in...
Yeah.
Was it Qatar?
It was right towards the end, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like he might be going to do endurance racing with Ferrari.
Yeah, he's definitely still around the scene, as it were.
Because Ferrari... So, Zhou...
Yeah.
I know I'm talking about a driver who's not at the team anymore. But he was also very big into fashion, like Hamilton. So I'm sure there are photos of Zhou and Hamilton and Leclerc all standing together in red, and you can just tell they're the most fashionable team on the grid by like light years.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Also, I think Haas have made a bit of a step forward as well.
They have, yeah. Because they've got a new team principal since last year.
Yeah.
Ayo Komatsu.
And they've got Ollie Behrman, who has just impressed, really, whenever we've seen him out on track.
Yeah.
He's like one of the 18, 19-year-olds.
Yeah, 2005.
Yeah.
So 20?
He will be 20 in May.
Yeah. Wow.
And he's just so... It's not just fast, but he seems quite mature and not getting into problems. Lawson, I think, really scrapped with Perez when he got a chance, didn't he? It was literally knocking off wing mirrors and being quite...
And Alonso, I think.
Yeah, he was really not popular, whereas Behrman is just... If somebody said to me, this is Behrman's 4th season, I would be like, yeah, figures.
Yeah.
I think really mature and really quite on it.
I did sort of think the same thing of Piastri when he started out as well.
He's always been a very undramatic driver, Piastri.
Yeah. But I think, Behrman seems chill. And again, a kind of good...
Yeah.
He knows the team better than Ocon.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, actually.
Yeah. What were you saying?
So what do you think your predictions are for next year? You think it's going to be a McLaren and Ferrari fight?
Yes. I think...
To be honest, I agree with you, and I'd be really hard pushed to pick between those 4 drivers as to who'll come out on top in that kind of scrap.
Yeah. Because, last year, Piastri, he had good races and he won a race or 2.
Yeah.
I think he won 2.
Yeah.
Leclerc won, 4? 3. I'm checking my spreadsheet. three races to Piastri's 2.
Yeah.
64 points between them. I think Piastri's got a little bit of work to do.
I think he was mainly hampered by DNFs, to be honest.
I mean, let me see. He had that one where he got spun round. Well, Piastri didn't DNF the whole season. What are you talking about?
Oh, okay.
He was the only driver to complete every lap whole season, actually, remember? Literally
the opposite.
Literally the most reliable driver on the entire grid.
So I wonder why he was... I've got a feeling he's better than Norris for some reason.
I don't know. I get that impression as well. I think it's because he got... Well, Norris has been in the sport for like 7 years now or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he got his first win last year.
Yeah.
And then Piastri in his second season got his first win like 10 races later. So I think Norris has got more experience.
Yeah.
And he's strung together a better season. I mean, as much as he didn't win the title, you do have to give Norris credit for actually maintaining composure for that long.
Yeah.
And he didn't just have one good flash in the pan. He actually won the last race.
Yeah.
I think Piastri doesn't quite have that full season composure just yet.
See, I wouldn't... I know this is going to... I know there's a lot in the press about how the British press absolutely love British drivers and slag off, your Max Verstappen and anybody who's not British.
Yeah.
But I actually think Piastri will have the beating of Norris this year.
I mean, yeah.
There's something about Norris that he's just not quite...
I think he's one of those, again, in the absence of anyone better, he could win a championship. I mean, he probably would have won last year if not for Verstappen.
Yeah.
But I think, given time, Piastri will come out as the better driver eventually.
Yeah. Definitely.
But those two could end up like what we saw in Italy, where they fought and then they lost time and then Leclerc snuck through and won. We might see that happen throughout the whole season.
I must admit, I thought Piastri was a bit strong. Was that the one where he just went up the inside at the chicane?
Yeah.
I thought that was... If that had been done on, like, a Verstappen or a Ferrari, that would have been... Wow, that's a brave move. But to pull that on your own teammate at the front of the race in the first lap is a bit...
It's a bit much.
On the other hand, that extra level of bite...
Well, does Norris have that extra level of bite?
No,
That's the
question. I think Norris is actually too nice.
Because there was the whole race with Austria, right, with Verstappen, where they obviously crashed.
Yeah.
What happened is that Norris spent 10 laps sort of sidling up and trying to, be nice on his way past.
Yeah.
I get the feeling Piastri probably would have made the move a lot earlier and without crashing and would have just somehow carried more speed or braked slightly later.
Or even done a Lewis and just pushed... pushed Max out of the way, because you need to with Max. He will not...
He doesn't yield.
No. You have to bully your way past and literally crash into him sometimes.
Well, yeah, I mean, quite a few times.
No idea who's going to come out of Leclerc versus Hamilton.
No.
Or how they're going to stack up to the McLarens. I think you're right. I think those are the top four.
Yeah, if those aren't the top four in the championship come Abu Dhabi, I'll be astonished.
On the other hand, you can't write off Max Verstappen.
No.
You look at how strongly he stayed ahead when he wasn't winning races.
I mean, that race in Brazil was, first of all, unbelievable, but also absolute nail in the coffin for the championship.
Yeah.
I don't think it wasn't mathematically, that wasn't when he mathematically won. But given that Norris had been making gains, and then when Verstappen had did he have a bad qualifying or something? He was out in Q1.
Or did he take penalties?
I think he got penalties, and then instead of Norris winning and extending the gap, he finished 6th and Verstappen won.
Yeah, Norris was on pole, wasn't he?
Yeah, so...
But that was the race of a champion.
Yes, and it's the sort of race that's the same reason that Norris isn't a champion, unfortunately.
Yeah. But that kind of doggedness from Max Verstappen,
Yeah.
he will be right up there.
Even if the Red Bull's a bit rubbish.
Yeah.
Don't think Lawson will be involved.
No, I don't think so at all.
But
unfortunately.
But that's just because he's a rookie, to be honest.
Lawson might actually make a difference in that he's in a car capable of fighting right at the front, but he's very scrappy.
He'll be a bit like Bottas was a few years ago. He'll be in the top 6, let's say, if we're going off of like how it used to be the top 3, you know.
Yeah.
He'll be in the top 6, and he should just get in the way and provide like strategy cover.
I'm also more worried that he will physically get in the way like he did with Perez and actually drive people off the road.
Yeah, but if you're Red Bull and he drives off a Ferrari and a McLaren, is that a bad thing for you?
He'll just get a bonus, won't he?
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see Lawson versus Hamilton, actually, because Hamilton can properly get his elbows out.
Yeah.
And he's got, like... Hamilton was probably racing before Lawson was born, to be honest.
Yeah.
Not quite. Anyway, we have rabbited on for a long time. Next weekend, we'll have to get up early.
Yeah, very early.
It's like a 7 a.m. job, but...
I think actually 4 a.m.
What? I thought it was 6:50. Damn.
Qualifying is 5 to 6. Races at 4. To be fair...
Yeah.
I don't know when BST starts.
Last Thursday in March, so it won't be then.
Oh, okay.
But it would just be nice to actually see a qualifying session where we can see the 2025 cars and see who is fastest.
Yeah, who is where.
Yeah.
What's the order?
Not what testing schedule are they on, oh, they're running these tyres. I mean, nobody took the softs out, really, in pre-season.
No.
So I actually see them properly nailing it, going, I need to go as fast as possible, we'll find out. I think in the commentary for pre-season testing as well, they were saying Japan will probably be the big indicator because it's such a normal circuit.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at it's Friday, isn't it, that the first practice sessions are on?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm just trying to figure out when the timings are. Because it's 1:30 for FP1.
I'm not too bothered about the FPs.
Well, practice 2 is on at 5 a.m.
Yeah, I'm not...
Until 6. But I usually, for work, I usually get up at 6. So I might just wake up an hour earlier and watch that.
Yeah. But I
wouldn't mind.
You know, I've seen pre-season testing. I want to see actually competitive.
Yeah, qualifying will be exciting, definitely.
It'll be the final. This is actually...
Who's going to be on pole?
Yeah, this is the fastest car, this one isn't, etc.
I think Leclerc could take it, actually.
Yeah.
Because he's a very good qualifier anyway.
Yeah.
And then it's China, then Japan. And you were saying Japan is actually the more representative track.
Yeah, it's a perfectly normal track.
It's twisty and not particularly top speed heavy, but it's got a big variety of corners. It's got like tight hairpins and like long swooping curves.
But it's the most kind of track-like track, if that makes sense.
Yeah, China's, I think, got extremely long straights. To the extent that everybody just takes the wing all the way off. Oh, China's a sprint as well. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sure your time is way over.
Well, it depends on how long you think these episodes should be.
Well, normally aim for about an hour, so...
It says 70 minutes.
Oh, fair enough.
With a few bits to cut out as well, so...
Yeah. So, yeah, next weekend we actually get to see some racing, not some Instagram posts and long commentaries. Actually see the cars on track going for it.
Yes. I'm very excited.
Oh, I am as well.
Then is it just... it's the next... Yeah, 2 weeks in a row with Australia and China.
Yeah, they've actually sorted out the calendar for environmental reasons.
A little bit, yeah. I think going to Saudi, then to Miami, then to Italy is a bit dodgy.
Well, all the tracks have very long-term contracts, so they're gradually nudging it a bit at a time.
Yeah, but I mean...
Australia, China, Japan makes perfect sense.
Yeah, even going to Bahrain and Saudi after that's not a massive leap. The only reason we're not starting in Bahrain is because it is currently Ramadan.
Ah, yes.
So, yeah, just makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like... Yeah. So the British Grand Prix is actually happening over my birthday.
Oh, wow.
As has happened a few times in the past.
Yeah, it's always the beginning of July.
Qualifying itself happens on my birthday.
Oh, excellent. Oh, happy birthday.
That's a good way to spend a birthday. Anyway, yeah, we should stop.
Yeah. Okay, then. Well, thank you for listening. If you want a good mystery book, look up Graham H. Miller. I'm on all the socials and everything. Toby's channel, Official Tibby, is doing really well. You can watch him playing games on there.
Yep.
And we'll talk to you in about a week or so after the race.
Yeah.
Bye.
Cool. Bye.